All right, thank you so much for all of you to come back on time. I really appreciate you getting in that breakout room and doing that little exercise that I asked you to do. What is the difference between the role of a manager and the role of a leader? And I'm going to ask you to share that here in just a moment or so. And what I'd like to do is I want to review why we're here, because this MAGIC leadership model is a powerful model. If you want your organization to have a culture of exceptional service, and what is more important than that? Having a culture of exceptional service. I can hardly think of anything more important, because that relates to service, not just to external customers, but also internal customers as well. And so just as a quick review, our MAGIC leadership model, MAGIC, for the transformational leadership is, first of all, make a great environment. And we're going to connect that breakout room result that we had, that you just had, that you're going to share, to that make a great environment, because I assert that you have to know the difference in roles between a manager and a leader in order to be able to effectively make a great environment. The second step in MAGIC leadership model is act with values and trust. The third competency grouping is get goals going. The fourth one is improve interactions continuously. And finally, continuous coaching and feedback. These 5 sets of competencies all work together in a system to enable leaders and an organization to create that exceptional service culture. So that's why we're here. And so in the Make a Great Environment, there are 4 key competencies that we want to talk about. Systems thinking is the first one. And that relates to the exercise that I asked you to do, systems thinking. The second one is servant leadership. Third is growth mindset. And fourth is being strategic. All 4 of these competencies are necessary from our perspective for a leader who wants to create that exceptional culture of service. So let's talk about systems thinking. And what I'd like to ask is a volunteer to share what you shared in your breakout room. What are some of the key differences between a manager and a leader's roles, please?
Hi, Wally. I'll go ahead and start. I think a manager is a person that runs stats, checks the performance of individuals, makes sure that they're on task, that the team's doing what they need to do. Where maybe a leader is a person that sets a vision for the department, has goals for the team, looks at the employees and helps them grow, helps them learn new areas of the business so maybe they can get promoted into other departments. He or she also walks the talk and really tries to set the example for the team and make sure that the team knows that he's invested in the full organization to help everybody grow and also motivate the team for a common goal.
Yeah, so thank you, David. So you're saying that task-oriented for the manager and stat-oriented, whereas the leader might be more people-oriented. Anyone thank you, David. Anyone like to add to that, please?
Yeah, this is George, and I work with David, and I agree with everything David said. I would just add, that a leader is really going to focus on motivating and encouraging staff to put our members and our customers first, and our customers are more than just, in our case, we're a health plan, but our customers are also internal and external and providers and stuff. And it's so much easier to make sure the second somebody gets on the phone with you that they know you're going to help them and you're applying everything you've learned in MAGIC, and you don't have to take a second call, and you don't have to deal with somebody filing a complaint later on and spending all kinds of time, and instead just from the first few minutes really start helping somebody.
George, thank you so much. So David, take advantage of that, because George said that he agrees with you almost every time. So I don't know how you want to take advantage of that, but I would encourage you to do that. All right, so here's just a bit of a summary that a manager, see if it's consistent with the comments that George and David made. They manage process, they achieve outcomes, they're tactical, they're task-oriented, they tend to remove waste and optimize. Whereas a leader creates that culture, creates the environment, and is more strategic. In fact, what I'd like to suggest, I'd like to add 2 more words. The word for the manager might be efficiency. The word for the leader might be effectiveness. For example, if you're really efficient at doing the wrong things, you're really going to be in trouble, right? So you really have to have both effectiveness and efficiency pulled together. And that's really where this idea of systems thinking comes in. In fact, let me ask you this. Is it fair to say, yes or no, that everyone needs to play either both a manager and a leader at a certain time? So they switch between the roles. Isn't that fair to say?
Yes.
And
Yes.
in addition, think about this. Isn't it fair to say, regardless of your title, that everybody in the organization plays the role of manager and leader? And isn't it the role of the leaders of the organization with the titles to make sure everybody can switch between those two roles? And what does that require? It requires an environment of high levels of trust and some other ways of thinking. So let's talk about what some of those things are. Let's talk about servant leadership. I'd love for someone to tell me, what does servant leadership mean to you, please?
I can take that one, Wally. Servant leadership to me in a practical sense is, if your staff is working late, you'll roll up your sleeves and work late with them. You're not going to be one that's just going to go home at 5 while the staff is here till 8, 9 at night. A servant leader is someone who empowers their team members, their employees, because it takes a village to do the job. And the more buy-in and more input that you have from your team, the stronger your decisions are, and collectively, you're more successful.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Adrian. So let's talk about this. What I love about this concept of servant leader, it's very consistent with what Adrian is sharing with us, is the pyramid is turned upside down. We've been taught a pyramid where the leader is at the top. Isn't that fair to say? And everybody supports him or her in the leadership pyramid, right? You report to me, and this one reports to that one, and this. The servant leadership turns it upside down so that persuasion and influence is more important than control. And that requires that we have to explain why things are so important and not just tell people what to do. And what does that require? It requires a high level of trust, relationship, and discipline. So the pyramid is upside down and the servant is rolling up their sleeves, as Adrian said, and really pitching in and being part of the team when it's necessary. And so that thought process, what does that do for motivation and loyalty of employees? And what does that do for the creation of the loyalty of the customer? Let's talk about growth mindset. This comes from a book that I really appreciate by Carol Dweck called Mindset. She talks about the difference between a growth mindset and a static mindset. Let me put you on the spot for a second. Anybody help me with when someone makes a mistake and they have a growth mindset, what's their reaction?
It's looking at what they can learn from it.
What they can learn from it. Yes, Noreen, thank you so much. So the growth mindset, you don't want to purposely make mistakes, okay? On the other hand, if you do make it, it's an opportunity for learning, whereas a static mindset, the mistakes tend to be interpreted as a flaw in the person. What's a leader's job in an organization to create this environment? They've got to be encouraging the growth mindset and discouraging the static mindset. And we're going to share with you some tools on how you could do that. So just making a great environment gives us the concepts, but we need the tools. And that's what we'll be sharing with you moving forward. Now, let's talk about strategic. A leader needs to be strategic. Isn't that fair to say? Well, okay, I'm biased on this. I love this little metaphor. It's the house of engagement and trust. Wouldn't you love to live in the house of engagement and trust? Okay, well, let's say you have to build that house. What do you have to do? You've got to start with the foundation. And the foundation has 5 key elements to it. It's the vision, it's the mission, it's the values, it's the strategy, and the LM is the leadership model. That's the 4 parts that we've been talking about this morning. And so vision is the ideal picture. The mission is why the organization exists. The values are how you behave on the way there. And that's where magic of customer relations really helps. And strategy, those are the priorities. So a leader needs to clarify these things and communicate these things in order to be successful and to create that environment for the success of the organization. I'd like to stop here for just a moment and see if there are any questions.
Hi, Wally. I had one question. I was just wondering, how often must the leader communicate the mission and vision? It seems frustrating when it needs to be reinforced multiple times.
Oh my gosh, isn't it frustrating? And how many times? So, David, I'm not sure I wanted such a challenging question at this point in time. And it is really challenging because think about it. You have to have a discipline to communicate these things over and over and over again. So as a servant leader, ideally that includes having patience in order to be able to do that and to know who needs more communication and who does not. And so, David, thank you for that question because it really emphasizes all parts of these four things that we've just talked about that work together as a system to be able to create this environment that we're looking for exceptional customer experience. So here's what I'd like to ask you to do in an effort to create an action plan for yourself. There's a self-assessment in your workbook, and I'd like you to take a moment right now and answer those questions. How skilled are you at systems thinking? How skilled are you at servant leadership? How skilled at growth mindset and strategic mindset? Be honest with yourself so that we can create that action plan for you at the end of the workshop. Take a moment right now to do that, please. Hi, thanks for watching. My name is Wally Hauck, Senior Vice President for Communico. And what you just saw in the MAGIC Transformational Leadership introduction is just an introduction to the 5 key sets of competencies that lead to exceptional cultures of exceptional service. And cultures of exceptional service, not just loyalty, but people who want to recommend you, employees who want to recommend your organization, and customers who want to recommend your organization. We at Communico for 30 years have worked very hard with systems, an entire system of MAGIC leadership and consulting and training that enable organizations to do this. And what we noticed is that leaders play such a significant role that we felt that we needed to have a leadership program that focused specifically on those competencies that are required in order to develop those exceptional service cultures. And so that's what we've done. And customer loyalty is the most important outcome if you want success, and if you want financial success, if you want growth success. And so the MAGIC Transformational Leadership is really a corporate focused training program that fits in with MAGIC of customer relations. And so if you see that you want to enhance your culture to have an exceptional service experience every single time with every single interaction, I'm hoping that you'll contact us so that we can talk about it. Thanks so much for listening.